September 1st, 1939. German tanks roll across the Polish border, and within days Britain and France declare war. The world is about to be consumed by its deadliest conflict. World War II will claim over 70 million lives and reshape human civilization forever. To understand this war, we must briefly look back to 1918. World War I ended with Germany's defeat and the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed crushing reparations and territorial losses on Germany. The German people suffered through hyperinflation and then the Great Depression. Democracy seemed to have failed. Into this chaos stepped Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party, promising to restore German greatness. By 1933, he was dictator, rearming Germany and spreading an ideology built on racial hatred and anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, militaristic Japan invaded China, and Mussolini's Italy sought empire. The aggressive Axis powers were forming while democracies practiced appeasement. In 1938, Britain's Chamberlain gave Hitler part of Czechoslovakia for peace in our time. Hitler seized the rest months later. Now he wanted Poland, and this time Britain and France said no more. Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, introducing the world to Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Panzer tanks, dive bombers, and mechanized infantry overwhelmed Polish defenses. When the Soviet Union invaded from the east, they'd secretly agreed to divide Poland. The country fell within weeks. After a quiet winter, Hitler struck again in spring 1940, conquering Denmark, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and, shockingly, France in just 6 weeks. The French army that held for 4 years in World War I collapsed in 1940. Britain now stood alone. Hitler ordered the Luftwaffe to destroy the Royal Air Force and prepare to invade Britain. The Battle of Britain raged through summer and autumn 1940. Young RAF pilots fought desperately, aided by radar technology. When Germany couldn't win air superiority, Hitler switched to bombing London and other cities in the Blitz. Britain endured, but survived. Churchill rallied his nation with speeches declaring they would never surrender. Hitler postponed the invasion indefinitely and turned his attention eastward. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa. 3 million German soldiers invaded the Soviet Union in history's largest military invasion. Despite numerous warnings, Stalin was caught unprepared. German forces advanced rapidly, encircling entire Soviet armies and driving toward Moscow. Behind the lines, Nazi death squads began systematically murdering Jews and others. The Holocaust was underway, but the USSR didn't collapse. Soviet resistance stiffened, winter arrived, and in December, as German soldiers saw Moscow's spires through binoculars, Soviet counterattacks forced them back. The myth of German invincibility was shattered. The war became truly global on December 7, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, killing over 2,400 Americans. The United States declared war on Japan the next day. Hitler then inexplicably declared war on America, bringing the world's greatest industrial power into the conflict. Japan simultaneously swept through Southeast Asia, capturing the Philippines, Singapore, and threatening Australia. By mid-1942, the Axis controlled most of Europe, North Africa, and much of the Pacific. But that year brought crucial turning points. In June 1942, the U.S. Navy defeated Japan at Midway, sinking 4 Japanese carriers in a single day and shifting Pacific momentum. In North Africa, British forces stopped Rommel at El Alamein in October. But the greatest turning point was Stalingrad. Beginning in August 1942, German and Soviet forces fought the most brutal urban battle in history, house to house, room to room, sometimes on different floors of the same building. In November, the Soviets encircled the German Sixth Army. Hitler refused to allow retreat. As winter closed in, over 250,000 Germans were trapped, starving and freezing. When the survivors surrendered in February 1943, Germany had suffered its greatest defeat. The Red Army began its relentless advance westward. Throughout 1943, the Allies pressed their advantage. Axis forces surrendered in North Africa. The Allies invaded Sicily and Italy, toppling Mussolini. The strategic bombing campaign devastated German cities. Germany launched one final offensive at Kursk in July, the largest tank battle ever, but Soviet defenses held. After Kursk, Germany never again attacked successfully in the east. As Allied forces advanced, they began discovering Nazi death camps, the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews along with millions of others in places like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Dachau, represented industrialized genocide on an unprecedented scale. Jews were rounded up across occupied Europe, transported in cattle cars, and murdered in gas chambers or shot in mass executions. By 1944, Germany's defeat was inevitable, but Hitler refused surrender. The Allies planned Operation Overlord, the invasion of France. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, over 150,000 troops stormed 5 Normandy beaches. At Omaha Beach, it nearly ended in disaster, with Americans pinned down under withering German fire, but courage and determination secured a foothold. After 2 months of brutal fighting through French countryside, Paris was liberated in August. Allied forces pushed toward Germany from the west, while the Soviets advanced from the east. In December, Hitler's last desperate counteroffensive, the Battle of the Bulge, failed, costing Germany its final reserves. By April 1945, Soviet forces were fighting in Berlin streets. Hitler, in his underground bunker, issued delusional orders to armies that no longer existed. On April 30th, with Soviet soldiers blocks away, Hitler and his wife Eva Braun committed suicide. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945, VE Day. The war in Europe was over after 6 years of devastation, but the Pacific War continued. American forces had been fighting their way across the Pacific in brutal island battles. At Iwo Jima, a volcanic rock 8 square miles in area, a month of fighting cost 7,000 American dead. At Okinawa, 3 months of combat killed 12,000 Americans, 100,000 Japanese soldiers, and 100,000 Okinawan civilians. Japan also unleashed kamikaze suicide attacks. The fanatical resistance convinced planners that invading Japan's main islands would cost over 1 million Allied casualties. American firebombing had already devastated Japanese cities. A single Tokyo raid in March killed 100,000 people, but Japan refused to surrender. On August 6, 1945, a B-29 bomber dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The explosion instantly killed 80,000 people and flattened the city center. When Japan didn't immediately surrender, a second bomb destroyed Nagasaki on August 9th, killing 40,000 more. That same day, the Soviet Union declared war and invaded Manchuria. Facing annihilation, and with Emperor Hirohito personally intervening, Japan announced surrender on August 15th. The formal surrender was signed aboard the USS Missouri on September 2, 1945. World War II was finally over. The cost was staggering. Over 70 million people died, 3% of the world's population. The Soviet Union lost 27 million, China 15 to 20 million, Poland 6 million, including 3 million Jews, Germany 7 million, and Japan 3 million. 6 million Jews, 2/3 of European Jews, were murdered in the Holocaust. Entire cities lay in ruins. Tens of millions were homeless refugees. It was the deadliest conflict in human history. The world that emerged was fundamentally transformed. The United Nations was founded to prevent future world wars. Germany and Japan were occupied, denazified, and democratized. The Nuremberg trials established that international law could prosecute those who commit crimes against humanity, even under orders. But the wartime alliance between the Soviet Union and Western powers quickly deteriorated into the Cold War. Europe was divided by an iron curtain, with the West democratic and capitalist, the East communist and Soviet dominated. The atomic age had begun, and the nuclear arms race would bring humanity to the brink of annihilation multiple times. World War II's lessons remain urgent. It demonstrated the catastrophic cost of appeasing aggression, of allowing hatred and scapegoating to flourish unchallenged, of abandoning democracy for authoritarian promises. It showed how quickly civilization can descend into barbarity when ideology dehumanizes others. It proved that freedom requires eternal vigilance and that evil must be actively opposed. The generation that fought this war is passing, but we must never forget what they endured, what they fought for, and why it happened. World War II changed everything. It remains the defining event of the 20th century, a testament to both humanity's capacity for terrible evil and its ability to unite against it. The 70 million who died, the millions who fought, and the countless who suffered all deserve to be remembered and learned from, so that such catastrophe never happens again.